So, welcome to the RecWired Podcast. Today's guest is Adam Oldfield, who's the founder and CEO of Force24. Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Andy. Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
So, for those who don't know Force24, how would you best describe what it is you do?
Yeah, okay. So we're a marketing automation platform, and the difference between marketing automation and, say, a sales automation platform is we support the business to develop processes to enable more effective communications and create a warm seat, if you like, for a consultant down the line. So sales automation is more about supporting a consultant to have day-to-day comms, whereas marketing automation is about agency infrastructure that helps consultants, helps other departments as well operate more effectively through automation. Fairly simple.
It's strategic as opposed to those sort of tactical things a consultant will be doing. This is the big umbrella piece that agencies will have pushing out their brand, pushing out their content.
Correct. You know, when you think about the sort of the desire of any agency owner, it is to build infrastructure. It's to remove as much manual intervention as possible from individual consultants. So we're taking out the nuances of the human disposition and we're sort of flattening it and trying to create really effective process based on what we've seen working through our business, and we've just automated it across the team. So it's really more than just supporting one guy do really, really well.
So as a founder, the majority of the people in our groups are founders, so they've been on a similar journey to you. So tell us how you ended up founding Force24.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting one. So I was from a web development background back in the day. So building and selling websites, which was, so I had an agency that was, you know, a reasonable, sizable entity. And back then, actually, our focus was retail e-commerce. So quite a different sector. But one of the things that really frustrated me within that was we could do all this great work on capturing the engagement of somebody or supporting a business to have a sales guy or whatever it is, create a relationship with somebody, and then actually doing nothing with the information that we collected. So even the basics, I want to send you an email on your birthday. I mean, I know that's a really inert and probably not something that many recruiters would want to do, but, you know, it's like, well, how do I do that? How actually do I do that? And in 2009, when that was, you know, where we were, actually, that was really, really hard. And so it was about, I think there's genuinely an opportunity to support people in holding better conversations with the data that we've collected and keeping people warmer and really empowering marketing to move from more of a generic one-size-fits-all with very basic segmentation to let's actually have conversations with people and have better relationships as a brand. And so as we went down this path, there was a few things that sort of shaped who we are today. And the first thing was we started to see different verticals emerging as being prolific users of email. And of course, this sector recruitment was a big part of that. But what we very quickly learned was most people you can give them all the tech in the world. But actually, what they try to then do is what they're already doing through the new tech. So what shaped us was this fact that, whoa, we've got to actually try and help you. So we brought about saying, right, you know, for me, if I have to really drag you along this journey, I need teams of people that are going to help you, that are going to train you. And, you know, budget is always a problem. So I need to be able to make sure that that is included in the price. So actually, we're going to be liberating data. That's our job. We're liberating data within your business and supporting you to do it as effectively as possible. Sounds really righteous and holier than thou. Obviously, we were in it to make it a few quid. But the point is, there was a gap and there is a need. And we have never been what we class as a Me Too product, where they've built a feature, therefore we should build a feature. We've always done it based on where the gaps in what our customers are trying to achieve has driven our innovation and our roadmap and so on and so forth.
So I think the really interesting thing for me, and I was speaking to Alex at Additivity about this, is recruitment's pretty unique. And you guys, you know, have niched into recruitment as one of your biggest areas. But recruitment's pretty unique in the sense that you're both B2C, you're B2B, and you have to manage your employee value proposition as well. So it's almost this three-sided approach to digital marketing, direct marketing.
Yeah, and I think that as I mean, one of the jobs that we're trying to do is actually flatten that. And so, yes, I agree. It's almost like a B to B to C message, and it is almost it does create complexities. But one of the things that I've noticed is, and I say this every time I'm in a room talking to a group of people, just take a moment, have a look round the room. And 10 years ago, everybody would have been sat there in a shirt and tie with nice fancy shoes on and perhaps even a briefcase. Whereas now we've sat there, you know, you've got your t-shirt on, I've got my Force24 branded jumper on, wearing jeans and trainers, and so this whole B2B proposition has been eradicated. We need to talk to people as if they are consumers on a personal level. So where that's changed. We don't come to work, put on a suit. It's an extension of our personal life now that's owned for and paid for by a company.
Things have changed a lot. I mean, I remember back in 2005, I was given the keys to the direct mailing product at Huxley Associates. And I think we had a database of circa 3 million candidates and customers. And I remember like unashamedly sending out like 250,000 emails a day. How much of time's changed since then?
Yeah, quite a lot. Quite a lot. I mean, firstly, that has got a zero end game right now. What we say now, right? Large data assets are more likely to contain toxic assets, as we call it. And so toxic assets are, where either really negative people that can cause a lot of problems with us with the DMA, or sorry, the ICO. We've also got in those assets what are now called spam traps, what used to be called spam traps, but they're now called toxic assets. And those spam traps are where, somebody has converted an email address into a spam trap. They didn't know they've done that, but basically my Hotmail address that I was using for years, that I didn't then use for years and years and years, and Microsoft shut it down. They converted it into a spam trap, and that's now there to see whether people are adhering to good mailing practices. So one of the challenges that we see is people are just tripping up over these sorts of things. So toxic assets tend to be where I haven't used the data in a long time, and I now come to do exactly what you're saying. Now, obviously, email, there's nothing wrong with the technology. The technology can support 250,000 emails a day. It can support way more than that. The reality of it is your business probably isn't able to handle that level of conversation, and it's a magnificent risk that we present. So you'll know about the Yahoo update, the Google and the Yahoo update, and obviously that's been a big part of our lives over the last few months. And people say, well, how do you feel about it? And I think best thing that could have happened by far. Because here's the thing, Andy, I always start my talks and saying, how many emails do you think the average inbox gets a day? Just have a guess. How many do you think it is?
It'd be 200, I reckon. 200.
For you, it probably is, and for me, it probably is, but the average is 120.
Okay.
So it's 120. And then ask the question, next one. So on the basis that you probably received 200 emails yesterday, remember one of them.
Wow.
Yep. You probably can't, right? And then if there is one that you can remember, it will be something like, oh, it was Halfords. They sent me an MOT reminder. Okay, so that's where we're at, right? And that's because you imagine if you're in a room full of people and everybody in that room is silent, nobody's saying a word, and one person even coughs, everybody's looking at that person. Or everybody's aware of that person. So in a room, a quiet room, you don't have to shout too loud. Now imagine that room is now at break time and everybody's talking. That cough, you don't even hear it. So in order to get attention at that level, somebody has to scream. And then imagine a room where everybody's screaming, then getting attention is really, really difficult. So what's happened is the room went from quiet to a small rumbling to now everybody is screaming, and you know what? I just can't hear it. Now, don't think that I'm saying here at this point that it's all dead, you can't use it, so on, so on, so on, so on. I'm saying it's changed. And actually, Andy, one of the things that people frustrates me now about automation and the label automation, everybody's head goes to email. I want to send more emails. I want to send automated emails. Yes, that's a part of it. But in actual fact, again, normally if I'm in a room full of people, I would place a bet that on your phone, Andy, specifically your phone, you have got either TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube as apps on your phone. And I would hazard a guess based on statistics. Most people spend more time on one of those apps or a collection of those apps per day than they spend engaging with their kids. That's scary, isn't it?
Probably a fair statement.
Yeah, well, the stats would back that up. So it's that's the reality of the situation. So what I'm saying here is that in the old days we had a quiet environment, we could send emails in, and we could be a bit more generic. We could be fairly we could be quite salesy. Whereas now, in order to get through that room, you don't have to scream. You just have to be hyper targeted. You have to be really effective. So throwing mud at the wall, hoping some of it sticks, is kind of the problem, and we've got to step away from that if we want to raise above it and go for the real conversions. Now, why I'm telling you about the social media is, so something happened about a year ago, and that is all of the social media channels opened up contact match APIs and open up facilities where I can say, okay, I've got a load of customers. I'm going to load them into Meta, I'm going to load them into LinkedIn, I'm going to load them into YouTube, Google, and I'm going to create audiences. And I basically synchronize that data, and it says, right, Andy's in my data, brilliant. Show Andy an advert on Instagram. So brilliant. So all of a sudden, what feels like, if I then in a room full of recruiters and I say, okay, how many of you are using Instagram for outreach? None of them. None of them. Okay, and then I say, well, how many of your customers do you think are on Instagram? Oh, our customers don't really use Instagram, or our prospects don't really use Instagram, whatever it is. Of course they do. My mum and dad, who are in the 70s, use Instagram. I bet my granny, if she had had a smartphone at 99 years old, would have used Instagram. So the age gap doesn't matter. And the fact that, well, it's only for consumer messages, that all changed. And that's why I said, you look at the room, nobody's wearing suits anymore. It's all blended. So when I'm at home and I'm, when I'm watching the TV and the adverts come on, what do? Do I sit and look at the TV and watch those adverts, or do I reach for my phone? And then I open my phone, open up Instagram, and guess what? There's this company, that company, all talking to me as a professional, not talking to me as, yeah, of course I'm getting the cool sunglasses and the t-shirts and all the rest of it. But within there are adverts targeted to me as a CEO. And that's where the market has changed. So we are able now to send messages essentially, or target ad spend on groups of individuals based on the data that we have in our CRM. So, we're using a CRM right now, and let's say I've not spoken to these candidates in a while, or not spoken to these clients in a while, or we're trying to open those up. I can share those with Insta, and I can make sure that we're showing them our adverts. So big change in direction. Now, here's the next thing. I'm conscious this. I'm not really giving it.
This is absolutely gold, because we're launching a product at the moment, and it's we can tell people about it. People are on the WhatsApp groups. We can put it on LinkedIn, but it's that reinforcement that that you basically are then seeing. Okay, in your mind, it becomes subconscious that RecWired Plus is something I need to look at, because they're advertising, it's in my feed, it's in between my cricket and my football team. Therefore, subconsciously, it's part of me.
Correct. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And so the channels are just channels. So one thing that is absolutely a fact about us is our attention can't grow. So we think that actually it's a fixed commodity, is our time and our attention. So it's moved. And the fact that now people spend more time talking to on social media than they do talking to their kids has impacted the time they spend talking to the kids. It has impacted the time I spend checking my emails. It's impacted all sorts of different things. So we need to recognize this. And what's funny about this is when I do talk about this, and I do point this picture and point the mirror back at people, they're like, oh yeah, it's so obvious. And actually, that's one of the things that I encourage most marketeers or most agency owners to do is look at your own behaviors, look at how you operate, look at how you interact. And that's how we can, and because with the next stage of this is then, okay, well, what sort of things should I be saying? You said at the beginning, right, BD matters to everybody right now.
Yeah.
Of course it does. It's really important. But then you say, right, okay, well, the first thing that I've got to do to unlock BD is unlock the attention of the people I want to sell to. So let's imagine that I've got Instagram lined up to say, these are all the people that could buy from me. So I've been to Cognizant, I've been to ZoomInfo, I've been to all these different data brokers. I've found the data of people that can buy from me. I've synchronized those audiences with Google, with LinkedIn, with Meta. And so I'm now in really good shape. Now I've got to start getting their attention. Right, okay. So then let's talk about what you did last night. So you were on social media last night, and I can say that statement with confidence.
Yeah, so in between, I think I was watching The Gentleman, the IPL.
What a TV series.
And then in between, probably just looking at the reaction, to, Josh Butler's innings and, just being involved in that. So in between various different, putting the kids to bed, having dinner, that type of thing. But yeah, in and out of that.
Yeah. So you think about that, right? You've got that fleeting attention. It's come, the candle of light is shone on that little device whilst you're looking at the reactions to Josh Butler. Then what would it take to have attracted your attention at that point to talk about a new whatever thing? It would have had to have been engaging. It probably would have had to have been quite humorous. It would have had to have been excellent production quality, but most of all, total clarity. And that is the thing. And so one of the things that I often talk about to people is now a marketeer's job. We have an obligation to entertain. Isn't that annoying? I didn't realize that's why. I preferred it when people were wearing suits and took briefcases to work, when I could just say, hey, we do this, come and buy it. The reality of it is now I have an obligation to try and entertain you in order to get that attention. And, years ago, everybody used to say TikTok, and TikTok, conjure up images of, recruitment consultants doing dances and things like that. It's not that. It's far smarter than that. It's a lot. It's more about what are the challenges? How do I connect to you? How do I talk to you about those challenges? And how do I make sure that that I can help you solve those challenges? So it's got a lot harder, really. And that's so when we talk about BD, it's recognizing that if you think that, say, for example, BD is, let's say, in the old world, taking you 250,000 emails a day, and probably you were speccing candidates or probably vacancies to candidates or something like that. Yeah.
Various different things. So a mixture of job updates for those who are sort of active. We ran the happy birthday campaigns. What happened on this day, we automated all of that. We occasionally sent out happy birthday to people who it wasn't their birthday. Yes, all of that good stuff.
It happens. But you know what? Actually, to be fair, that sounds like you were pretty sophisticated back then. What was that? That must have been like 2006, 7, was it?
Yeah, 2006, 7. So yeah, it was. I remember moaning about the tool because the culture at S3 was always great. It was always about data. So right from the very start, it was, if it wasn't on the system, it wasn't done. So if you registered a candidate, it wasn't registered unless it was on the system. If you did an interview, it wasn't. And because the reports were gospel, it encouraged that good data behavior. You weren't allowed to hide a candidate's email because you didn't want your colleague spamming them, for example. So there was this culture of, make it correct.
And that is so important. And actually, slightly off topic, actually, but that when we talked about the toxic assets, it's so important that we recognize why actually the conversation that we're having on with the client, with the candidate, is twofold from a motivational point of view. Yeah, we want to get a meeting. Yeah, we want to see if they're interested. But actually, it's my opportunity to data cleanse. And I'm not actually 100% certain that, you know, many agencies are actually driving those principles. Is if you've made a call, that call just cost me as an agency owner 10 quid. What did I get out of that call?
The other thing we're very good at was segmenting, and I've seen great businesses are very good at segmenting. And you can take the prime example of where we wanted to be was what Tesco's did with their loyalty card. So, you know, it was basically send people what they want and, you know, retain customers. What I see far too often in agencies, though, is the moment they get a customer is do not mail shop, do not. So they're so scared of sending them something wrong, they end up sending them nothing that's right.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, it's like, so when we're talking about that top level, about the marketing infrastructure, it's like, this is why it's so important to get it right. It's so important to focus. Automation's there essentially to say, marketeers, figure out what you want to do, automate it, and then you sit on the machine looking at it. You're not the machine, improving it. So as day by day, consultants are saying, oh, actually, I want my candidates and my clients to know about the event that we're holding next week because I want them there and I want to shake hands with them. So I want to empower marketing and I want them to, but if marketing are just, you know, sort of head down doing average quality stuff, very impersonal because they ain't got time and you just can't do it. You cannot live that sort of level of connection. But you segmentation is the thing, right? And I just want to just point something else out to you that's I find is really interesting. And so most businesses are focusing on the wrong form of segmentation. And by that, what I mean is, if I was to say to you, right, okay, every sales process has a funnel, yeah? So candidate, the first thing I want you to do is do this, then that, then that, then that. Then if it's a client, I want to do this. And so why shouldn't marketing have a funnel? And we should say these things to get you in, grab that fleeting attention. Once we've grabbed that fleeting attention, we need to move you to this one where we're starting to talk to you using email, SMS, WhatsApp, whatever, about whatever. And then at the bottom of the funnel, we're just about to pass you into a consultant. So now what else are we going to do? Now, so think about that for a second. And I want to just run an analogy or a simile, I think it is. And that is, right, let's pretend I own a restaurant, right? Andy, you walk into my restaurant and I'm the guy behind the counter. What do you want me to say to you when you walk into that restaurant?
Good evening.
It's a good start, isn't it? Good evening. But what do you want me to actually ask you?
Yeah, I guess, you know, welcome, what brought me here?
Would you like a table? Let me just preempt that.
There we go. Yeah. Would you like a table? Would you, you know, can I take your coat? You know, that type of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we can agree that in that scenario that let's settle on, would you like a table? Right. Because it's very generic. You know, would you like a coat would predispose it's raining outside or you've got a coat on or whatever. So let's go with, would you like a table? At that point, I would say there is a 100% chance of success in that question. Yeah. Fact.
Yeah.
Now that is the best question that you could ask when somebody comes into your restaurant, right? I then take you and I sit you down at the table. Now, what do you want me to ask you?
Would you like a drink?
Would you like a drink? Okay. But look, here's the thing. 10 seconds ago, the question that had a 100% chance of success now has a 100% chance of failure. So instead of pulling out, sitting you down at the table, instead of saying, would you like a drink? I say, would you like a table? It is the most ridiculous thing ever. We would order. Yes. So the point is all the way through that restaurant process, we've asked what fairly well-rounded, we know it, we all go to restaurants, so on and so forth. So we know what the process is going to look like. And if anybody was to do anything that didn't look like that, it'd feel a bit strange. But the difference there is the waiter or waitress has got eyes on you to know exactly where we are. Now, the reality of it is, now, if I take that funnel, now, if you think about it, I don't actually pay my bill and become a customer of that restaurant until I've placed the order. So I've actually gone through quite a lot of steps. So that's your marketing funnel. Now, all right, you had to get them in the door in the first place, but I'm just, again, it's just a simile rather than an exact metaphor. But what's happened there is I've moved you through a process to take your order. I couldn't have taken your order when you walked through the door. Or equally, if I'd have tried to take the order whilst you were walking down the street, you might be coming to it. So there is a funnel, there is a process, there is these are the steps that we have to go through, and recognizing that segmentation is more important than necessarily, and I'm not saying, butchers, bakers, candlestick makers, of course, I've got to talk to the nuances, of course. But that level of segmentation. Where are they in my marketing funnel? Yes, also, where are they in my sales funnel as well? Because it might be, if it's somebody that marketing has passed in, I want to know where you are. So I am inviting you to my great events. I am inviting you to this. I am inviting you to that, whatever. But it's this bit up top that changes what we say. So the thinking is you've got top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. Top of the funnel is, did you know? Right. And it'd be me saying, Andy, did you know, and this is on perhaps Instagram or email, whatever, did you know most people are burning cash by blah, 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 blah. And then the middle of the funnel, once you've engaged with that content, is something like, Force24 helps businesses that don't want to burn cash by doing X, Y, Z.
Yep.
And then the bottom of the funnel to get you into the sales guy would be instigating a follow-up action. So would you like to talk to somebody? Would it be helpful to learn more? So this kind of thing before it goes into a consultant.
Wow. So my old boss used to talk about recruiters, said they would be terrible people to date, because typically what a recruiter would go out and they'd ask all the first date questions, and then the next week they'd go and ask the first date, they don't record the information or pass it on, or often don't take no for an and just sort of start again. So I guess it's super important that marketing is synced up with sales. And one of the controversial things I see is marketing sales, or is sales marketing? And I think the more I've I've been doing this 25 years now, but the more and more I think it's both. I think it needs to be integrated. It needs to be both.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is where we take inspiration from other sectors.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that I think has been a bit of a superpower of Force24. Obviously, we're dominant in quite a number of different verticals. This is by far our favorite and the one that we are most connected to. But it actually is really useful for me to be able to bring outside world influence in to say, traditionally, this is how it would operate. So is marketing sales, and is sales marketing, who owns what? If you have a marketing team owned by sales, you end up going for specking candidates. Get me more leads. I need more leads. If you have a sales team owned by marketing, you end up with next to nothing, because it's too passive. It's too...
The brand looks lovely, but it doesn't convert.
Yeah, exactly. So the magic is, I believe, it is two separate departments working to a common goal. So
the Goldilocks is that.
Yeah, I think so. So it's tricky. It's both reporting to the CEO, and both of them have got a voice at the table, but we're still fighting for the same goal, putting bums on seats.
So the big issue we do get is still around deliverability. We're having a conversation in the Bridge group last night around deliverability, and people getting much better deliverability from their one-to-ones, as you'd expect. But I think the phrase people are talking about is from their systems, from their ATSs, is dropping off a cliff. And with all the changes at Google and Yahoo, it's going to get worse.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing about that is, let's just talk technical for a second. It's very boring. So at the moment, your ATS may be assuming a different identity, or your ESP or ATS is assuming a different identity to your consultants. Okay. So consultants are building up their identity, and the ATS is building up their identity. Google wants to tighten up authentication so it can comfortably say, that's that business. They've got good practices. They've got bad practices.
So even different domains, if people, but people, sync it all together and say, no, you're Joe Blogs Recruitment, and this is the sum of your reputation.
So the domains challenge is it might present nuances. It may be not subdomains, but domain level might. But I think, you know what, that's just a matter of time. These are the biggest tech businesses on the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you're working with Google, for example, processes 43% of all email on the planet. So, you know, you've got one of the biggest businesses. And here's the thing, right? When you're sending a campaign, you are paying Google no money for that service. So when you were sending 250,000 a day, you're putting load on Google servers. 43% of that is going through Google servers. And they're saying, whoa, S3, how much money are you paying us for this? Nothing. Instead, they're being paid by the recipients. And their recipients are saying, well, I pay you to protect me, and I pay you to protect my inbox. So you got to understand that's the balance of power. So, you know, you are essentially misusing or abusing their infrastructure by mass communications, right? So we got to understand that. In fact, most ISPs, you know, internet service providers, place an outbound limit on the number of emails that you can send through their service. So if I've got broadband at home and I say, right, I'm going to start sending out 250 million emails a day, my internet service provider would have blocked me before I've even got to the first 300, because that's not normal behavior, and they'll start blocking you. Right. So recognizing that, you know, an ESP has got an essential role in the agency infrastructure. And, you know, you could say that we are an ESP. It's got an essential role in that infrastructure, and doing good things has to be paramount. Whether, you know, it's not about fudging the system. It's, you know, and like I said, you know, maybe the domains do give us a bit of leeway for a short period of time. But ultimately, if my answer to Yahoo or to email deliverability is spin up a new domain, it's a very short, you know, it's a zero end game. Actually, my answer should be, how do I actually send things people want to engage with? And that comes from segmentation, comes from marketeers having time to think about good things, having good relationships with consultants, to listen to what the guys on the ground are saying, and building really smart, engaging content around that speaks to it, holding wonderful events. And yeah, one of the things that we've noticed actually across the estate, not necessarily just within the sector, but very predominantly within the sector, is regional get-togethers. Regional events are back with a vengeance. And the evidence that we've got to support that is that attendance rates are up into the high 60s across the board. So in pre-COVID times, I'd have an event, I'd be like, yeah, whatever, I'll sign up for that. Attendance rates were maybe 30, 40%. So I'll actually turn up at that sort of rate. COVID came along. COVID said, you know, you're not going anywhere, whatever. I had 2 years of being basically locked in my house. Then the big events, you know, we were at the Rec Expo just a couple of weeks ago. The big events are struggling with attendance, although it seemed pretty good, actually. I thought it was a good turnout.
It was good. It was one of the better ones I've been to in recent years, definitely.
I agree. But they've been slower to recover. And the reality of it is, actually, when we're looking at the data, if you were to draw on a map where all of our leads were from the conversations that we had, they're all dotted around London.
Okay.
And so there were sort of some from the, so what I'm saying is people aren't getting on the train to come to the Rec Expo in the numbers they were, but local recruiters in the area, and it's quite a big area, you know, say a 50-mile radius or something like that, were getting there. Now, bringing the noise to the town, bringing it to Manchester, bringing it to Leeds, Newcastle, so on and so forth, we're seeing that those attendance rates are up massively. So I'm, as a Newcastle hiring manager, I'm in Newcastle. I'm probably not going to get on the train to come to an event in London.
Great, yeah.
But I am going to go to, is it White Hart Lane? I'm crap with football.
St James's Park.
St James's Park. Oh my God, what am I talking about? Yeah. Okay. I am prepared to go to an event that's being held there. And so the attendance rates are much higher there. I can't remember who the question was, but there was something else that I wanted to touch on about it. Was the email deliverability piece? I think was what it was.
Yeah.
Those events are really powerful, but recognizing that email isn't the only direct game in town. So, this is, you've heard inbound and outbound. Have you heard that marketing expression? Yeah, it's made up. It's not a good, it's a terrible term. It doesn't work. When you actually look at technical marketing, it's ridiculous. HubSpot made it up. That's why I don't like it, really. I mean, it's probably got some merit, but I really want to go in it because so in the old days, it was called direct and indirect marketing. Okay, so direct marketing is me getting on the phone, me sending an email, me sending a letter. Indirect is I've got a billboard advert or I've got a paid PPC ad or something like that. Now, HubSpot try and wrap that up and say, well, that's direct and inbound and outbound. It's not. Now, with that, if we go back to the pedigree of direct marketing, the other thing we're seeing is direct mail. So direct mail now, post-pandemic direct mail engagement rates, again, are through the roof. So what we're seeing is like, okay, I'll tell you what, Andy, did you check your doormat this morning and did you have any direct mail?
I didn't check it. I haven't checked it this morning, but I did have yesterday. Yeah.
Can you remember what it was?
Yeah, it was something to do you want another credit card or something like that?
Right. So you received, talk about that room again. You're in a room where nobody is talking. A cough. We can hear a cough. You probably didn't want the credit card, whatever. But the point is, the doormat is dead. It's quiet. Now, you might be working from home, granted, but a lot of businesses are forwarding on post or when they get to the office to work for those, there's the post that they've got to have a flick through. So those engagement rates are through the roof. And what we call it is media you can hold. And now the interesting thing about this is, even if I'm not interested, when I have to pick it up and throw it in the bin. And now, not many people have got a bin next to their doorstep. So, or next to their, next to their doorstep, yeah. So they have to walk with it as they read it into the kitchen and throw it in the bin. Yeah. Or sometimes I think, actually, I'm quite interested, I'll put that there. And so post-pandemic direct mail. Now, what I'm not saying there is that we need to now spend thousands and thousands of pounds a week, a month on sending those 250,000 emails, not as email, but as direct mail. I'm saying of my audience, on any given day, there may be 10 people that are worthy of direct mail. And those triggers are, well, they're in the middle of the funnel. They've been engaging with us. And actually, I've got enough information from Cognism to be able to automate a piece of direct mail. So one of the things that we did was we released our app marketplace just last week. And the app marketplace says we're connected to a direct mail printer. So you can go on, design a direct mail, build a direct mail, and then automatically, when somebody does something of interest, bing, off it goes, direct mail on the doorstep. Same for WhatsApp, same for Eventbrite, same for everything. We connected everything up. It's so cool. But knowing that, just a couple a day, and as long as the marketeer isn't doing it by hand, it's really powerful, really powerful.
It's amazing how these things come full circle. So I was at a thrift shop with my boy the other day, and it's full of LPs, full of vinyl that people are throwing out. And when I started recruitment, it was all postal mail outs. That's what you basically, you spent the last hour of your day licking envelopes basically to put it out. So it's amazing how if you stand out from the crowd, you do something different. It's very interesting you say about how do you just move yourself out from the pack.
Yeah, if it's a quiet room, you've got to scream. If it's you've got to cough. That's all you need to do, just cough. And so the difference between what you were doing when you first got in recruitment is now the technology exists, so you don't have to be licking envelopes anymore. And actually, do you know the weird thing is when you were licking envelopes and doing it that way, it costs a lot more money. You're buying a stamp at what was a first class stamp cost today? What do you think?
That's one of those. How much does a pint of milk cost? It's got to be 50p to a quid or something like that. Who knows? It's
somewhere in that category, isn't it? You'll buy direct mail from a bulk provider on a call off like that, a fraction, including the print, the digital print, for less than you can buy the stamp.
Wow.
So doing it automated is actually a hell of a lot cheaper. I think you're at like 35p or something like that. I don't. I actually don't know. So, but it is cheaper.
So the thing is, this all sounds great, right? And the challenge for founders in our groups is they're here, and that marketing nirvana, as we've sort of described it, getting that whole machine working, it feels like, I think people look at it and it's like, right, okay, we'll worry about that in 3-6 months. And it doesn't seem like it seems too big to fix right now. Let's just focus on the sales. How do you get over that hump with your customers?
Right. Okay. So, one of the things that we talked about very, very briefly is, about, we took investment in 2020 or something like that. And what that has taught me, right? Spending money is really important. It's how we optimize, it's how we grow, it's how we develop infrastructure. So when I'm looking at a mountain and I'm thinking, good God, I've got to walk up there, that's a big challenge. But now when we're spending money, I'm thinking, right, I've got to deploy that capital to make that work for me, not just sit there because it's pointless. I've got to make that work for me. And actually, as a marketeer and as a business owner, I get really excited when we're spending money on investments that are taking us like this.
Yeah.
And so the reality of it is, Andy, I mean, I could sugarcoat it and say, oh, well, we can think about it like this, start small. No. What we have to do as business owners is come to peace. This isn't our money. It's not either buy a conservatory or implement some marketing. It's, I am going to implement agency infrastructure that's going to take me to the next level. And I'm going to invest in it. And it might feel a bit awkward or I've got to stretch a little bit. And maybe it feels like now isn't the best time to stretch. And that's fine. The game is long. If it's this year, next year, the year after, all we're doing is just delaying. It's not if, it's when. And so when we do it, we're hiring the best marketeer for the job. We're hiring the best product for the marketing job. We're investing our time in the business to really get behind what we're trying to achieve. We've got the consultants not saying, oh, I'm not bothered about that, I just have my post-it notes. No, CRM is what we do. The ATS is what we use. And then as you said, Andy, it was really important for you back then. And I think, now it is more important than ever before, but yet it's slipped a little bit off the radar.
Yeah.
So put your big boy pants on.
Knowing your customers.
Say again, sorry?
Nothing more important than knowing your customers.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. Lastly, what do you think for 2024? What are your customers saying? 23 was generally, I think, perceived as pretty tough for everyone. Yeah. What are your customers saying? How was the first quarter, and what does the rest of the year look like?
We have it. To be honest with you, I'm really optimistic about 2024 and 2025. Genuinely, really optimistic. Number one, when we're looking across the platform at stats and what's going on and things like that, we can see things are picking up. The pipelines are filling up and things are starting to move again, and that's really positive. But most importantly, from a what we're seeing businesses doing, as I've already said, it's diversifying channels, it's developing infrastructure, it's the events are quite a tactical thing, but it's a really nice thing to know that if I put an event on and I get people coming to it, they're going to turn up. And then the follow-up beyond that is this down to how your business operates and how compelling your proposition is. But getting people and getting their attention is really important. So we at the moment, and Ian, I'm really, really pleased, are extremely busy. And there's a lot of businesses really waking up to what marketing automation does for their brand, and how it sits alongside sales automation, like a Sourcewell or Bullhorn or Sense or whatever it may be. What it does that's different.
And that's important that you plug into all of these data sources. So if you're a recruiter and you've already made that investment in Bullhorn, Vincherry, Job Adder, any of the Salesforce platforms like you can plug into those guys.
Exactly. That's a 101 of automation. You got to be able to capture that data and surface it into our product. And I want a consultant to never leave their screen. They don't have to worry about what's going on over here.
Yeah.
They're just in this world. And
Just
so we keep them there and we focus over there.
magic happens here. You just keep the system record up
Exactly.
today. We'll do all the rest.
Exactly.
Adam, it's been a real pleasure having you on board. And it's great to meet you at the expo. It's amazing to hear your passion. And I think it's really important that founders and owners actually have a passion for the problem that they're solving and a passion for the industry you're in. So thank you so much. When these rules start to really bite and kick in, and if there's anything that we're sort of noticing, we'll bring you back on the podcast a bit later in the year, and it would be lovely to hear your sort of take and update on all of those things.
Of course, love to share it. Yeah, lovely.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thanks once again, Adam. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.